Hey everyone, before I get started with the stories today, I just wanted to take a moment to say a few things. The channel just recently hit the 100 subscriber mark, which is completely awesome. I know it's not a lot compared to most channels out there, but it's pretty cool to me, and I wanted to give a huge thanks to all of my subscribers. You guys are really awesome, and it means a lot that you take the time out of your day when you could be doing or watching literally anything else to watch these videos. I love making them and want to keep growing the channel, and as it grows, I have some things planned that should be a lot of fun, such as live streams, Q&As, contests, and giveaways, and collabs with other YouTubers. So yeah, huge thanks to everyone, and be sure to keep liking, commenting, and sharing the videos, since that kind of engagement is what makes YouTube show the videos to other people and allows the channel to grow. And even if you hate the video, then go ahead and thumbs down it and leave a comment telling me to go kill myself or something, because it just wouldn't be the internet if you didn't. And if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe now so you don't miss out on all the upcoming content that you may enjoy. I've done a couple Skinwalker videos already, so I decided I would do this one now, since those seem to be the most popular videos on my channel thus far. I've mixed it up a bit this time and included Wendigo and FLESHGAITS stories as well, since they all are different creatures, but still these stories have a similar vibe and atmosphere and tend to blend together pretty well. But enough of me rambling and boring you guys, it's time for true and terrifying encounters with Skinwalkers, FLESHGAITS, and Wendigos. This story comes from myself. It occurred 2 years ago on a hiking trip with my father. I will also mention I was 16 at the time this story occurs. Okay, so it was nearing the end of August. My father had decided to take me on a hiking trip into the woods that lay on the edge of our property. This set of forest is quite expansive and is a nice place for a hike. Plenty of hills, small patches of clearings, and so on. We ride out on our ATVs and pack up and begin to hike. If I remember correctly, we got to the trail about 5 p.m. and began walking at 5:20 or around that time. It was very beautiful, with a crisp breeze here and there. Suddenly, we hear a noise. We're about 20 minutes into the woods from where we begin. This noise sounds like it's coming from around 20 to 30 feet ahead of us. It's loud, like someone dropped a boulder from the top of a tree. I'm naturally a skittish person, so I jump immediately upon hearing it. My dad starts laughing at me and asks me what's wrong. I respond with, "Dad, didn't you hear that?" He doesn't seem too worried. "Yeah, why? What was it?" He then informs me it was likely a bear dropping from a tree, or possibly a large bird taking flight. It doesn't add up in my imaginative mind. What kind of bird makes a noise like that? We continue on the hike, and we find a tree. Every branch on one side is completely broken, like a large animal slid down, breaking every branch. I believe this is the source of the noise I heard earlier. I point and tell my dad to look. We both begin investigating the tree. He tells me it's definitely a bear that slid down the tree, but I don't believe him. But I go with it. We are now around 45 to 50 minutes into the hike. We stop to rest and eat a bit. We both pack sandwiches, me with a turkey, and my dad with chicken salad. He loves chicken salad sandwiches. We talk about how nice it was out there and finish eating. It's about 6:20 now, and we begin hiking again. About 10 minutes in, my dad stops me. He squats down. "William, come here." I walk up beside him and squat down as well. "What is it?" I ask. He points at the mud, and I'm chilled to the core. On the ground are a trail of footprints, unlike any animal I've ever seen. The back of them were slim, and they start to get wider as they reach the toes. The toes are long and thin with a faint claw mark at the end of each. My dad tells me he's never seen anything like them. I'm now making connections in my head. Broken tree branches, odd footprints, multiple versions of horrific creatures are running through my mind. He tells me that we should turn around and head back. Not because he's scared, but because it's getting kind of late. And it's 6:35 and we are getting tired. And we turn around to start heading back. As we pass a clearing in the trees, I see something out of the corner of my eye. I'm tearing up right now as I type this, just thinking of it. Standing in the clearing, about 15 or so feet away, is a tall, dark creature. It's just looking up at the sky. Its face is like a bird's. It has a long beak and sharp facial build. Its body is thin, and its arms hang down to its knees, with long fingers on each hand. I start crying and scream for my dad to look, but it doesn't come out as a scream. It's just a squeak. I yank on his jacket, and he turns around to face me. I just point at the direction it's standing at. He's completely silent. The whole world is just silent. For a moment, I thought time had stopped. The thing had no interest in us. It's just looking at the sky. I looked up in a tree above the thing, and there's a mangled body of some animal, torn beyond recognition. It's just staring up at it. And we start to run, faster than we've ever ran before. I didn't hear anything following, so I guess it wasn't too interested in us. We reach the ATVs and hightail it the hell out of there, not looking back. And when we get back home, not a word is spoken. We just go in, sit down, and watch TV. And even now when I bring it up with him, he just tells me he doesn't want to talk about it. And we haven't gone back to that hiking trail. I don't think we ever will. When I was in my first year of college, I lived with my mom by ourselves. My dad had passed the year before, and we moved out of the house shortly after. I was kind of glad because I had suffered a lot of paranormal trauma growing up there and was glad to get out. One night I was driving home on Highway 111 North after youth group, and I saw something that still bewilds me. It was lightly raining that night. Mist crawled across the road from the cow fields on either side. The lights from the few gas stations nearby were reflected in the wet asphalt. I was driving about 3 car lengths behind a dark minivan with nobody else in sight on the roads. All of a sudden I saw the van swerve to miss something in the middle of the road. I was going too fast and the road was too slick to miss it. All of a sudden I saw framed in my headlights and silhouetted in the glowing red brake lights of the van speeding away, a tall, muscular man with the upper shoulders and head of a buck. It was like a minotaur, but a deer head instead of a bull, and glowing eyes. I clenched and braced for impact, and then passed right through the figure. It was like it dissolved right into the mist. I am used to swerving to miss deer at night, but I should have nailed this thing on the driver's side. Nothing. I was too afraid to look in the rearview mirror as I gassed it and sped home. I was only a couple miles away, which was both comforting and terrifying at the same time. I raced in the door and locked it behind me. I told my mom, who laughed it off but was disconcerted at my pale, clammy complexion. I only later found in research it being describing like what I saw, the Wendigo, a Native American legend that was terrifying to me as a child, but I had never heard it described like this. I had never heard of any creature like this until that night on a dark Highway 111 that I will never forget. My grandmother on my mother's side has always been very superstitious, for lack of a better word. She's not religious, but she does believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. Her mother was full-blooded Navajo, and her father was Irish. Either way, she'd never been anywhere east of Montana. She grew up in Nevada. One year, When I was in grade school, we went to visit her. Most of the visit was pretty uneventful. Typical boring old people stuff. Except she always kept her curtains drawn and shut and would always peek out the window. When someone asked her what she was doing, she would simply reply, "Yendalushi is watching me." And this went on for nearly the entire visit, till a few days before we were due to leave. My grandma and my then baby brother, he's 19 now, were in front of the yard that evening planting flowers, when all of a sudden my grandmother starts shouting my little brother's name. "Get away from that creature. It's not safe." And of course, being in Nevada, we all assumed that my brother had found a scorpion or a rattlesnake. And we all run outside to see my grandmother clutching my little brother and shaking in terror against the side of the house. Standing out in the yard was a large black dog. And it was staring at my grandmother with an intensity I'd never seen before. It looked up at us, gave a huff, and ran off. And I don't remember if it moved unusually fast or not, but I do remember it had really deep yellow eyes. When my mother asked my grandmother what happened, she kept repeating, "The Yendalushi has found me." We moved a couple weeks after that. And this is the first time I've ever seen anything out of the ordinary, and it's by far the most horrifying moment of my life. I used to go hiking on a trail near my home in Tennessee. We lived out in the boondocks, so I was pretty much used to the woods. I would always go out for a walk with my basset hound Flash every evening. Just the other day was the first time I've ever seen Flash growl and yelp the way he did. We were coming around a bend right next to a small pond that was completely overgrown with thin trees. Suddenly, Flash started growling and barking his head off. I looked where he was facing, but I couldn't see anything. I kept walking, but he wouldn't follow. Then he started yelping, as if someone had kicked him right in the gut. Just the sound of him panicking freaked me out enough to back up a bit. That's when I heard something crashing through the woods ahead of us, along with the most foul smell I've ever smelled. It smelled like death and vomit. I stood close to Flash and started backing up when something broke through the thick foliage ahead of us. I had never seen anything like this creature before, and it all happened so fast. I'll do my best to explain what it looked like. It was the shape of a large dog with really long fur, as if the thing had never been groomed. Even the snout protruded outward like a canine, but there were sharp fangs hanging from its maw on either side. Weirdest of all, though, there were antlers on its head. And the thing honestly looked like a carnivorous rabid deer, except this thing was far too bulky and short to be a deer. I took off towards home at full speed, glancing behind me as I ran. After the third or fourth glance, the thing must have run off as well, because I could no longer see it. But I didn't slow down. For all I knew, that thing could have been stalking me. I didn't stop to catch my breath until I was home with every door locked. I haven't seen anything since then, and I hope I never do. I just really miss going on walks. Every year, every summer, I used to go camping with my dad. I can't remember the name of the area because it was a long time ago. It was the 7th of August though, the date we always go camping. It was 2001. We had arrived at our spot. It was right next to the lake. The lake was huge. My dad told stories of a monster living near the lake that preys upon unlucky campers like us. I never believed him until that day. We had set up our tents for the night because it was going to get dark soon and we needed a place to sleep. Before I continue, I just want to tell you who was there. There was me, my dad, my 2 uncles, and my friend Mike. And that isn't his real name. I'm just protecting his privacy. The sun was about to set, so me and Mike went on a walk before the day was over. Mike was afraid of everything, so as I walked, I teased him with stories of the creature of the lake. We were so caught up in our stories that we hadn't realized how far we had went from camp. We turned and began to walk back. We had been walking for so long, the sun had set and it got dark very quickly. I was walking ever so slightly ahead of Mike because I had a flashlight. "You alright, Mike?" I said, turning around. There was no answer. As I pointed the flashlight in his direction, I saw Mike standing there with a face as white as snow. Then a foul stench hit my nose, the stench of rotting. I walked over to him. He was shaking like crazy. I whispered to him, "What is it?" He lifted his hand slowly and pointed into a gap in the trees. I saw a deer standing there. "A deer's pretty usual around here. Let's go," I said, trying to calm him down. I aimed my flashlight at it. It looked at me and I saw it clearly. Its head was a deer, with a bloody mouth, and beside it was a rotting corpse. It stood up and let out a shrilling screech. It was humanoid, with 5 long claws on each hand. Its tongue was long and pointed, almost like a worm. Its body was a slender and brownish color. I let out a blood-curdling scream just before tossing my flashlight at it, grabbing Mike, and running. I never ran faster in my life. It took an hour to walk. I ran back in seconds. Me and Mike never slept that night, and all through the night we couldn't help but think we were being watched. I don't know if I was just hallucinating from the terror, but I swear I heard the sound of long claws on wood whenever I'm near those woods. I'm never returning to that place again. All I hear at nights near those woods now is a shriveled voice whispering, "Wendigo." I decided to join my bestie Karen for a 3-day stay at her grandmother's place on the res. Her grandmother lives near a place called Tuba City, Arizona, in the middle of nowhere, but surrounded by rural homes. We go to college together, and I was kinda interested to know about Navajo tradition. The first day we stayed, it was pretty chill, nothing out of the ordinary. But then her grandma, not that old, around 67, said that a stray dog came out of nowhere and wouldn't leave. To me, it did act kinda strange and ugly. Black, shaggy coat, looking like a mix between a German Shepherd and a lab almost. That night we were watching a movie in the living room, and they had big windows that looked out to the front yard where the cars were parked. The curtains were wide open. Grandma was in the kitchen cooking dinner, and we were watching a movie. Next to the window was a medium bookshelf where DVDs are kept. Karen went to put back a DVD she had just watched, but she freaked out because the stray black dog was staring at us through the window, standing on top of the wood box outside. Not something normal dogs do from my point of view, or hers. Usually my dog, which is a house dog, scratches the door to be let in. Res dogs aren't house dogs, and dogs inside houses are frowned upon in Navajo tradition, meant to protect the house and the owner. And the other dogs seemed to stay away from it. Karen opened the door and yelled at it to get off the box, and it ran off behind the shed. We went to Tuba City to get some groceries. Came back to the house. The dog was nowhere to be seen. Nothing unusual. Grandma went to visit some people, so it was just Karen and I. And about 5 o'clock, we heard someone trying to open the door. Both of us looked out, and since there had been no car and no dogs barking, looking out the living room window to the door, there was the dog trying to open the door with its paws. 2 paws wrapped around the brass doorknob, standing on its hind legs. I thought that was really weird, but wasn't actually freaked out. But Karen was. She opened the door and chased it off. Grandma came back later and Karen told her. Grandma didn't like what she heard. When we got ready to go to bed, we slept in the spare bedroom since it had 2 beds, one window with the curtains opened a little. And we turned off the light, but there was a sound coming from on top of the roof. Pitter-patter, footsteps, scratching sounds, and panting. And then it sounded like it jumped off onto the large plastic water barrel they had. And at first we heard what sounded like barking, but as it grew louder, the other dogs seemed to be barking at something also. But all of a sudden, something was running around the house and barking. But it was no dog. No, it wasn't. The barking sounded human. A deep male voice barking, like it knew that we knew it wasn't a dog. Woof, woof, ruff, ruff, arf, arf. Just exactly like that, adding the W's, R's, and A's. Then panting again by the window, and we started to freak out. Karen decided to open the curtains and look out. There was the stray dog on its hind legs looking into our bedroom. But this time, it stunk, and what I thought were 2 black holes in the neck, another pair of eyes twinkled. Think of those ugly, glossy spider eyes staring at you. And the paws were deformed-looking hands, with overgrown, somewhat thick and sharp fingernails. Again, both screaming and shutting the curtains closed, Grandma came running through the door and seeing it. First thing she did was grab ashes from the fireplace, load 3 shells into the shotgun from under her bed, bless herself a Navajo, and went outside to shoot it, yelling in Navajo about how the thing wasn't welcome there and to get the hell out, for it to go linger somewhere else. Them both being traditional, the next day they called a medicine man to come over and put cedar in. He prayed over everyone with cedar smoke and an eagle feather, blessed the home, made us eat bitter herbs called eagle skull, and gave me an arrowhead. And apparently I needed to carry one for protection, and a little pouch called corn pollen. It seemed to work pretty well. And the medicine man said that the dog was a skinwalker, which in Navajo is a long word, but I called them Yoshis. And the body of the stray dog, which was killed by the skinwalker, made an illusion, so we wouldn't know it wasn't a real dog. He also said they tend to harm people by using some sort of human bone straw to spit at someone. Think spitballs, only deadlier, and get human bones into them. Doctors can't detect it, but the medicine man, that day, pulled a piece of human skull out of Grandma's right shoulder. Pretty big, about 2 inches long and 1 centimeter thick. It was real because we watched him pull it out of her. This all happened about 5 years ago. One night, a few of my friends decided after a night of hanging out that we'd go on an adventure about 3 a.m. We took a ride about 50 miles to this old Spanish ruin in New Mexico that was once the seat of the Inquisition. And I can't for the life of me remember what this place is called. So we jumped the front gate to the place and started exploring. And one of my friends brought a flute with him. He started playing it, and about 30 seconds into his playing, something started screaming really, really loud on the tops of the long destroyed walls of this place. And it was going from wall to wall really quick, screaming the most blood-curdling scream you've ever imagined. And we got the fuck out of there and drove for a few hours to where we planned to camp out for the rest of the weekend. And when we got there, at probably 6 or 7 a.m., we set up our camp. After a few hours just talking about what the hell happened at the ruins, I went to take a piss, probably only like 300 feet from our camp. And this is where everything starts to get a little fuzzy. I remember seeing 2 dust devils coming my way. And when I turned around again, two of my friends were there. And they were motioning me to follow them. And I couldn't help but to follow them, like I was being pulled behind them in shackles. And I followed them for what seemed like 10 or 15 minutes. And then I snapped out of it. These weren't my friends. They had bright red hair, with my friends' faces, but cat-like eyes. And I stopped walking and they looked at me with the most terrifying gaze I've ever seen. Monsters in movies are nothing compared to this. And I turned around and ran as fast as I could, back the way I came. And after about 5 minutes of full sprint, I got back to that rock that I took a piss on and found our camp. And everyone was there, still sitting around talking, and didn't even notice that I was gone. And I told them what happened with the lookalike skinwalkers, and we packed everything up and left, probably within 10 minutes, and got the hell back to Albuquerque. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was kind of a long one, so if you stuck around this long, then you probably did enjoy it. So why don't you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll be back real soon with another video for you. And until then, I'll see you at the witching hour.